Please help us grow by subscribing, share, comment, and like. We promise to bring you more beautiful and emotional stories of Black struggles and resilience. The teacup falls first. A white shatter across black stone. Malik Rivers looks up from the hydrangeas and sees Eleanor Hartwell in the doorway, one hand on the frame, the other at her throat. 74. Pale, breath thin, eyes pleading. Help, she mouths. He drops his pruners. He reaches her in 6 strides, lowers her to the rug, and tilts her head. Air moves, but weak. A rash creeps along her neck. Her pulse races under his fingers. Mrs. Hartwell, stay with me, he says. I am right here. Conrad Pierce storms in from the hall. White, 51, estate manager. Gray suit in a house that smells like lemon oil and money. He grabs Malik's shoulder. Get your hands off her, Pierce snaps. Staff stays outside. I will handle this. Malik peels Pierce's hand away. She needs help now. She has a private doctor, Pierce says. No need to call anyone. Malik scans the set tray. A bowl of lobster bisque sits half-finished. The spoon shakes on its saucer. Next to it, a pill organizer lies open. The Thursday slot empty, though today is Monday. A pharmacy bottle has a smear where the label meets the plastic. The cap sits crooked. Eleanor tries to speak. No voice. Her eyes water. Her chest rises in short bursts. Malik presses the panic button on his phone. He speaks clear to the operator. Adult female. Labored breathing. Hives. Possible allergen exposure. Address. Pierce steps into the signal with his body. Hang that up, he says through teeth. You trigger press with one careless call. At 4 minutes, pause. Watch till the end to see what happens to Malik and Pierce. This flips when truth walks in. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Malik sets the phone on speaker and keeps his hand steady. He rolls Eleanor to her side to ease her breath and checks her airway. He calls out for help. Rosa emerges from the butler's pantry with a towel and trembling hands. AP, Malik says. Where is the kit? Rosa points to a drawer. Pierce lunges and slams it shut. No needles in my house without approval. Malik meets his eyes. Her chart lists a shellfish allergy, he says. This bowl is lobster. This is not a debate. Sirens wail in the distance. Eleanor's lips turn gray at the edges. Rosa cries. Pierce squares his shoulders like a judge on a bench. Malik opens the drawer. The kit sits under linen napkins. He lifts the auto-injector, checks the date, and speaks low to Eleanor. Pinch. Press. 1, 2. He delivers the shot. He counts under his breath while her breath fights to find rhythm. The sirens grow louder. The front gates swing open. Paramedics flood the hall with brisk voices and a stretcher. Pierce steps in front of them with a palm raised. Private residence, he says. You will act when our doctor arrives. The lead medic glances at Malik, then at Eleanor's neck. We are acting, she says. They load Eleanor with care, attach oxygen, and move with pace. Who delivered the shot? A medic asks. I did, Malik says. Good work, she replies. She turns to Pierce. This patient had an airway at risk. Delay equals harm. They roll out. Malik follows to the door. Pierce blocks him with his body. You will not speak to my employers, Pierce says. His voice drops. Stay in the dirt where you belong. Malik steps around him and watches the ambulance lights bleed into daylight. His hands shake for the first time. He looks back at the tray. He sees the soup. He sees the pill organizer. He lifts his phone, switches to camera, and photographs every angle. He takes a photo of the pharmacy label with the smudged line. He sets the spoon back exactly where it lay. Rosa whispers, "Thank you." Then she looks toward the stairs. Thomas is on his way. Her son, Malik says. Yes. Pierce hears the name and stiffens. Thomas does not need garden gossip, he says. You spoke out of turn. Gather your tools. Your time here ends today. Malik looks down at his hands. Soil under the nails. Calluses from years of work. He thinks of the first day he walked through the service gate and saw Eleanor's empty beds. He thinks of how she watched him plant those beds and told him her mother loved lilacs. He thinks of how she asked his name and held it like it mattered. He breathes once, slow. He locks eyes with Pierce. You threatened the wrong worker, he says. I keep records. I keep my word. Thomas Hartwell steps through the front door while the siren fades. 38. White. Navy suit. He takes in the tipped teacup, the tray, the open drawer, and the two men. His eyes land on Malik first. "Who helped my mother?" he asks. "Do not stop here. Watch till the end to see who protects the truth in public and who loses the room." Subscribe to Echoes of Black Struggles so you follow the turn. L. Thomas listens without flinching. Malik speaks in plain lines. Hives. Short breaths. Lobster soup, near an allergy note. Thursday, pills gone on Monday. AP delivered. Medics took over. Pierce interrupts with a polished tone. The gardener pushed past me and administered a drug without authority. He endangered Mrs. Hartwell. Thomas raises a palm. We will let the hospital speak first. He turns to Rosa. Did you see the tray come up? She nods. Yes. From the kitchen. Yes. Who prepared the soup? Chef Leah prepared a mixed seafood set for the week. Mr. Pierce told me to serve lobster at noon. Pierce smiles without warmth. Routine lunch. Rosa looks at the floor. Mrs. Hartwell avoids lobster. I said that. Mr. Pierce said the diagnosis changed. Thomas breathes through the silence. My mother's diagnosis did not change. Allergies do not vanish in a week. He turns to Malik. Thank you for acting. Pierce bristles. You thank him for disobeying protocol. Thomas faces him. I thank him for a steady hand while someone I love fought for breath. Pierce keeps the smile. Optics will punish this house if staff speak out of school. Thomas's voice cools. Truth guards this house. Optics follow. He points to the pantry. They step in. Thomas closes the door. The noise of the big house falls away. It smells like coffee and old wood. Malik, what did you record? Thomas asks. Malik shows the photos and timestamps. The tray. The organizer. The label smudge. The spoon. Thomas studies each frame, then hands the phone back. Save those, he says. He texts the family doctor and the hospital. He asks for the ER report. He asks for an inventory of home meds. He asks for a toxicology screen on the soup. Pierce knocks on the door with 2 fingers. I will handle communication. Thomas opens the door and steps past him. You will wait in the study, he says. I will handle my mother. Pierce's eyes flash. You forget my role. Your role serves my mother's life, Thomas says. Not the story in your head. Pierce retreats 1 step. As you wish. Thomas drives to the hospital with Malik in the passenger seat. He turns off the radio. He asks for Malik trained for first aid. My aunt is an RN, Malik says. She taught me to read a scene and use what helps. She taught you well. They sit with the ER doctor, a woman with clear eyes and a direct tone. Severe allergic reaction, she says. Early AP likely saved a crash. We gave steroids and observed. Heart rhythm looks stable now. Thomas exhales. How long before she rests at home? 48 hours, the doctor says. We will run a standard panel. Bring me a list of her home meds. No seafood in that house. They drive back. Malik walks the kitchen with Chef Leah. She sets out labels, receipts, and prep lists. A stainless pot rests in the sink with a ring of orange at the rim. The bisque went up at noon, Leah says. I flagged the allergy on her card. Mr. Pierce told me to proceed. I regret that. Your flag matters, Malik says. Keep that card. Photograph it. Email date-stamped copies to Thomas. Rosa pulls a small zip bag from the trash where Pierce tossed the soup ladle. She looks scared. Malik nods. Place in the fridge. We will ask a lab to test it. Thomas gathers everyone in the small staff dining room. He thanks them by name. He tells them the ER report. He names the plan. Inventory. Photos. Statements. A lab test for the soup. A review of the home pharmacy. Pierce arrives with a lawyer in a navy suit who looks like he lives in conference rooms. The lawyer slides a paper toward Malik. Trespass warning, the lawyer says. Remove yourself from the property within the hour. Thomas lifts the paper and tears it in half. Not today, he says. The lawyer blinks. You do not hold title. I hold power of attorney, Thomas says. He lifts his phone and shows the document on the screen. Filed last year. Active today. Pierce's smile cracks. This is a circus, he says. Gardeners believe themselves heroes and managers endure slander. I will restore order. Thomas looks from Malik to Rosa to Leah. You did right, he says. You acted with care. You wrote things down. He turns to Pierce. You will sit in the study and wait for our internal review, or you will leave with your bag. Pierce chooses the study. He slams the door a little harder than needed. At dusk, Malik walks the garden with his notebook. He writes times and names. He sketches the tray. He writes what he saw on Eleanor's neck and in her breath. He writes Rose's words. He writes the ER doctor's lines. He locks the notebook with an elastic band and slides it into his pocket. His phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. A photo of his house. A message. Stay in your lane or you lose that roof. He stares at the screen. He takes a screenshot for the file. He blocks the number. He looks up and sees a light in the study. A tall shadow moves behind the curtains. The shadow holds a phone to an ear. The shadow paces. The hospital calls. Thomas takes the call on speaker. The lab found traces of a sedative that does not belong in Eleanor's regimen. The trace matches a bottle on the home tray. The label shows a refill date that never went through her doctor.
We need to make sure
Someone
you're taking
altered
these
a
at the
line
right
on the
time.
sticker.
It's really important.
Keep watching. The
She
next
seems a
room
bit
holds the
disoriented.
first showdown. Subscribe to Echoes of Black Struggles to see how evidence beats a polished lie. Morning brings a quiet storm. Thomas sets chairs in the library. No cameras. No audience. A notary sits in the corner with a stamp. The family lawyer, a woman with iron in her voice, sets a recorder on the table. Pierce enters with his own lawyer and the smile he wore yesterday. Thomas opens with short lines. We will hear facts. We will review documents. We will decide on roles. He calls Chef Leah first. She reads her prep log and shows Eleanor's allergy card with a red stripe and the word shellfish in bold. She points to Pierce's initials next to the order to proceed with lobster. I raised a flag, she says. I regret that I let a manager wave it off. She sits. Rosa reads her statement. She describes the noon exchange. She describes the drawer. She describes Malik's shot. Her voice shakes once, then steadies. The ER doctor joins by video. She states Eleanor's condition and the treatment. She adds a line about the sedative trace and the altered label. This dosage would worsen an allergic event, she says. It did. Thomas nods. He calls Malik. Malik stands. He does not look at Pierce. He reads his notes. He shows the photos with timestamps. He passes the phone around. He speaks without heat. Pierce's lawyer clears his throat. My client followed routine, he says. He trusted kitchen staff to follow cards. He trusted the private doctor to update labels. Thomas's lawyer raises an eyebrow. The private doctor did not update labels, she says. We checked. The refill never happened. Someone altered a sticker. Conrad Pierce leans forward. Accidents happen, he says. I saw a bowl and thought of comfort. I thought of tradition. The Hartwell house serves lobster on Mondays. Thomas's jaw flexes. Tradition that ignores a body is not tradition. It is neglect dressed in silver. Pierce spreads his hands. The gardener acted outside his scope. He exposed this house to risk. The gardener saved my mother's life, Thomas says. Pierce sneers. You trust a worker with dirt under his nails more than a manager with 20 years in estates. Thomas turns to Malik. Your hands save breath, he says. Then he looks at Pierce. That soil grows food in this yard. That work honors life. Your point drips with class and race. You will sit with that. The family lawyer slides a folder across the table. We also found your messages, she says. You told HR to write up Malik last month after he refused your order to spray herbicide near Mrs. Hartwell's bedroom windows. He refused because the chemical triggers her cough. You pushed anyway. Pierce blinks. He undercut authority. He protected health, the lawyer says. Thomas sets a final item on the table. A small camera from the pantry. Backup unit, he says. Alma, the former front desk lead, told me where the old eyes sit. You forgot this one. They watch. The clip shows Pierce wave off Rosa with a smirk. It shows him instruct her to serve the lobster. It shows him pocket something small from the tray. It shows Malik kneel at Eleanor's side and press the auto-injector. It shows Pierce step between Malik and the drawer. Silence spreads across wood and leather. Pierce's lawyer gathers his papers. We asked to resolve this privately, he says. Thomas shakes his head. We resolve it with policy and light. He turns to Malik. Walk the garden with me. They step outside into morning air. The trees hold a soft breeze. The city hums far away. Thomas stops by the lilac bed. My mother told me yesterday that you spoke to her about these shrubs, he says. She said you listened more than you spoke. She misses her mother when the lilacs bloom, Malik says. We planned a bench here. We will build that bench. They walk back in. Thomas calls staff into the hall. He speaks where everyone can hear. From this hour, he says, Conrad Pierce is suspended. His access ends now. We will inform the authorities and provide our files. Chef Leah, you report to me. Rosa, you report to me. Malik, you will lead grounds and safety for the estate. Your role covers emergency readiness and staff training. I will pay for certifications. Whispers spread. Rosa wipes a tear with her sleeve. Leah exhales for the first time in a day. Pierce scoffs. A gardener in charge of safety, he says. You cheapen a house built on standards. Thomas meets his eyes. Standards that ignore breath deserve no pride. A courier arrives with a letter for Thomas. He reads the first line and his face tightens. A legal notice from Pierce's firm threatens a smear campaign and a claim that Selena Hartwells will name Pierce as a trustee over parts of the estate if Thomas removes him. The letter lists press contacts. It dares them to move. Do not blink. The last part shows how to win without revenge. Subscribe to Echoes of Black Struggles and watch how policy, light, and a bench change a house. In reward, tone, steady, restorative, uplifting. Thomas hands the letter to his lawyer. File our report, he says. Send the pantry clip and the label photos to the DA. Copy the hospital. Copy the board of the Hartwell Foundation. He turns to staff. No one engages with gossip, he says. We speak through facts. We protect each other. We support my mother. They drive to the hospital together. Eleanor sits propped up with a pink blanket and clear eyes. She reaches for Malik's hand first. You stayed, she says, voice thin but bright. Yes, ma'am, Malik says. We held the line. She smiles. Those lilacs will need water this week. We already planned a bench. Good. Thomas fills her in. He keeps it spare. He names Pierce's actions. He names the soup. He names the sedative trace. He names Malik's shot. He names the new roles in the house. He does not linger on the letter. She hears enough to know the shape. She squeezes Malik's fingers. You honored life, she says. Thank you. The DA calls that afternoon. The pantry clip lands hard. The altered label pushes the case over a line. Officers meet Pierce at his private gym and walk him to a car. The same sources who fed his smear list run a very different headline by night. Thomas stands in the garden at dusk and writes 3 house rules on a chalkboard for staff. No food that triggers risk enters this house. No medicine sits without 2 sets of eyes on every dose. No worker faces a threat for speaking the truth. He signs his name and dates the board. He brings Malik a folder with a new contract, head of grounds and safety, a salary that respects the weight of his work, a budget for training, a stipend for community classes. You saw what others ignored, Thomas says. You acted without fear. You wrote things down. You held a life steady. I trust you with this house. Malik reads the lines. He looks at the lilac bed and then at the kitchen window where Rosa and Leah stand shoulder to shoulder. He signs. 1 week later, Eleanor returns home. The staff meets her at the door. No fanfare, warm air, and soft light. She walks slowly to the garden with Malik on one side and Thomas on the other. The bench sits under the lilacs. A small brass plate reads, "For the women who taught us to listen." They sit. Eleanor breathes in the scent and closes her eyes. This is what I wanted, she says. A house that honors truth. Thomas nods. We will keep it that way. He turns to Malik. I have one more thing, he says. This house owes you more than a title. He leads Malik to the garage. A small team waits by a pickup with a logo Malik drew years ago on a napkin and never had the funds to print. Hartwell Grounds and Safety Community Division. Thomas hands him a key fob. A truck, Malik says, voice low. A truck, seed money, insurance, and a retainer, Thomas says. You will train other homes. You will teach staff in houses like this to keep elders safe, to label correctly, to build plans. You grow more than shrubs. Malik stares at the logo. His throat tightens. He thinks of his aunt's night shifts and the calm she brought to hard rooms. He thinks of Rose's shaking hands and Leah's regret. He thinks of Eleanor's breath finding its path again. He turns and wraps Eleanor in a careful hug. He shakes Thomas's hand with both of his. "Thank you," he says. Thomas smiles. "You earned this." The months that follow change more than one address. Malik writes a simple training guide with clear steps and plain language. He teaches house crews how to stock kits and how to read labels like lives depend on it. He builds a small team from gardeners, housekeepers, and cooks who know where risk hides. He pays them well. He writes their names on the front page. Rosa joins his classes and tells kitchens to trust their flags. Leah teaches how to label in bold and store in ways that protect tired eyes. Thomas funds a hotline for staff who face pressure to ignore risk. Eleanor hosts a small luncheon for workers from other houses. She thanks them with her whole face. The bench under the lilacs becomes a place where staff sit to breathe after hard shifts. People in this house do not whisper when they see a problem. They speak. They write it down. They fix it. One afternoon, Malik returns from a training across town and finds a small padded envelope on the bench. Inside sits a silver pin shaped like a spoon, the exact curve of the one from the tray. A note rests under it in Eleanor's hand. "You turn harm into a promise." With this when the room gets loud. He pins it inside his jacket where only his heart feels the weight. Moral reflection. A worker stepped over a line drawn by fear and saved a life. An estate manager tried to protect optics and lost the room. A son chose truth over status and wrote rules that outlive a headline. This is how change holds. Simple steps. Names on decisions. Training that honors the people who do the daily work. Power rises when those at the edge of the room speak and others listen. Thank you for watching. Do one thing that protects someone in your care. Subscribe to Echoes of Black Struggles for weekly stories of dignity, justice, and growth. Share this with a friend who needs strength today. Tell us in the comments about a moment when you spoke up and what changed.